Hi everybody, we're going to do a demonstration on pruning tips. Today we're going to be working on a Oregon curl-free peach. Start with clean, sharp pruners. Sharpening this beveled blade, this little beveled edge is really important to get a good, nice, clean edge on that. And washing your pruners with bleach or rubbing alcohol, something like that, that's going to sterilize it, because you can transfer fungus and disease from one branch to the next or one tree to the next through your pruner. So make sure you're cleaning your pruners. If you want to be really crazy, you can prune it or wash it between each cut if you're dealing with like something that has heavily infested with leaf curl or rust or something like that. So anthracnose. Anyhow, so start with nice, clean, sharp pruners, and that's going to help with making precise cuts, and they're not jagged, they're not, tearing the bark. So what I always recommend is to start with, basically, it might sound silly, but you start with looking at the tree first and get a general overview of what you're trying to achieve. Is the tree too tall? Is it too wide? Just try to start, instead of going in there, chop, so yeah, just look at the tree and have a good general idea of what you're trying to achieve. Also, researching what plant you're pruning, and you should know like what time of year that plant blooms, what time it fruits. You don't want to be cutting off next season's fruit or next season's blooms. So just research when that plant blooms and fruits. And another thing is some plants produce fruit on new wood and some produce on old wood. Knowing what size branch you're cutting is important, and so what type of pruners you're going to be using. So up to 1 inch in diameter. This is about 3/4 of an inch. This is about 1 inch in diameter right here. You could use hand pruners. Anything larger than that, you're going to want to use loppers. This is about 1.25 inches or so. Anything bigger than that, you're going to want to use, you can use a sawzall. That's helpful. Something like that, or a hand saw, pruning saw. First, we're going to talk about the angle of the cuts you're going to be making. So when we're talking about the angle of these cuts, so I always leave a little bit of space on the above the bud. So we keep this at about a 45-degree angle, and this is where the tree is going to naturally heal itself over. If we were to cut this straight, let me use another branch for example. So if we were to I'll cut this one wrong. So we cut this directly across, this little section right in the middle doesn't usually close up. So you'll see on cuts that are cut 90 degrees, the tree doesn't heal itself over completely. But something like this with a 45-degree angle, that closes up completely. So we want to start with a 45-degree angle of our cut. And leave a small little bit remaining. The thing we'll talk about is the location of the cuts. So as you can see on this, I'm just going to work with these exterior branches that we're probably going to be cutting this off anyway because it's all goofed up. So if you see your branches out like this, so you have inward facing buds and you have outward facing buds. So basically you can steer the branch to go any way you want. So obviously if you cut on an outward facing bud, this branch is going to be going out. If you prune on an inward facing bud, this next branch is going to be coming in. So some reasons why you would do an outward facing bud, let me get you another one because I talk better when I have something in my hand. So when you have an outward facing bud, what that's going to do is typically create more air circulation throughout the tree. It's going to have a more layered effect. So on this peach tree, you could have fruit kind of layered throughout the tree. instead of all kind of bunched up together. So outward facing cuts help kind of create more air circulation and more sunlight into the center of the tree. So what are some reasons why you would use an inward facing bud? Might be maybe it's a hedge. You know, you have a laurel hedge and you want it to fill in more in the center. So if you cut on the inside, then that branch is going to come in towards the interior and fill in more densely. So there's two main types of cuts you'll be making. One's a heading cut and one is a thinning cut. Heading cut is when you're taking a portion of a branch down. So say we want this branch to become more developed later. We want to kind of steer this out this direction. So this would be more of a heading cut, okay? So now what this is going to do is this branch now can go out and develop out here. A thinning cut is removing an entire branch. So we'll take this for example. This has a tag on it. See, this branch is angled poorly. When we cut this, it looked like we cut it here, and then we got this downward motion. So a thinning cut is removing the entire branch. So, and we'll take this tag off and put it back on the tree somewhere else. So those are the two main cuts. So thinning cuts, you're removing the entire branch. In heading cuts, you're taking a little bit of the head or the top off. So those are the two main cuts. Another thing to understand is when we're talking about the location of the cut, you don't want to disturb the branch collar. So the branch collar, let me find an example. So here is the branch collar. See that swollen area? So it looks like a little blister there. So we want to leave that branch collar intact. If we cut into that branch collar, you're going to end up with a lot of suckers. So in that area. So the branch collar is the swollen area where the main branch branches off into a smaller branch. So this area right in here, where it's kind of ridged and swollen, that's called the branch collar. The branch collar is really important because there's a lot of genetic material in that portion of the branch. There's what's called indifferentiated cells inside this portion, well, throughout the tree, but specifically they kind of congregate in this area here. If you've seen probably poor cuts where you have tons and tons of suckers come up. So these are like suckers down low. So what that is when you disturb that branch collar, or if you cut into that branch collar, the tree tries to heal that wound, and in doing so, it puts a lot of energy into that portion, and then you get all kinds of activity coming out, all kinds of branches and suckers coming out of this portion here. So we don't want to disturb the branch collar because you're going to end up having to prune like crazy later on. When you start making cuts on your tree, before you make any decisions, you want to first take out any damaged wood or damaged branches. So probably a deer or something brushed up against this and broke it. So any damaged wood you want to remove first, or any dead wood. So like this branch here, this has a terrible angle. It's going down, so we don't really want that. So we can remove that entire branch. Anything that's going into the center, directly into the center, we don't want. And this is kind of discolored anyway. I think these branches have some issues anyway. Let's see. So anything broken or damaged you want to remove. Anything going directly into the center of the tree, that's going to help with air circulation. So anything that's going into the center, I typically remove. Stay away from the branch collar. Anything going straight up or straight down. So another thing to remove right off the bat are these suckers. Anything like down at the ground, water sprouts, some people call them water sprouts or suckers. But these can come off completely, and they're gonna come back, but it's best they suck nutrients and water from the tree, the parts that are actually going to produce fruit. So you want to remove these, and of course as close to the trunk as possible. The next thing you want to start looking for are weak angles. So you want your branching to have between 45 and 60 degree angles. Like something like this is kind of goofy. Imagine like a bunch of fruit hanging off of this, and then it has this weird angle. This is way less than 60 degrees. So we can just remove that entire branch. Okay. So, and then we can start looking at where fruit is going to start happening. So this branch here, for example, has a couple things going on. So this is what you're looking for the fruiting spurs. So you have this elongated section, and the reason for that is because the tree kind of beefs itself up there, because there's going to be probably 2 or 3 peaches on that portion right there. So it needs to kind of reinforce itself in order to hold the weight of the peaches. So anyway, so understanding that this is going to produce fruit. So if you make a cut down here, it's like you're not getting those peaches next year. So anyway, and then here's another flower bud. These are a little bit more developed than leaf buds. The flatter ones, these are just going to be leaves. Later on in the season, they'll begin to swell, and you'll be able to tell that this is actually a flower. This is actually going to be producing fruit. So it's early. It's mid-January right now. So looking for weak branches. So the reason why we want to cut out weak branches is if the branch angle is too low, and then you put fruit on it, or then it produces fruit, has a tendency to snap or break, which we don't want. So just looking here, looking for weak angles. So this little section right in here has a lot going on that we can talk about. So for one, if we go through these in order, we remove anything that's damaged or discolored. So this is black, this is a dead branch. So that can go out immediately. That comes out. Next thing we notice is the angle, this angle here, okay? See how this is kind of going up and then going down. And then if there's any fruit on the end of this branch, this is going to be a very weak point. And this is actually even thinner upstream, you know? So you have a thinner portion and then it gets thicker. So looking for things like that, you want to just remove right away. So we can remove that branch in here, go at our 45 degree angle without hitting the branch collar. And then also right here, we have a branch that's going straight up. So this is also a weak angle. So we're going to want to remove that. So also you can look for like some congestion. And so like we have 2 branches here. One of them is decent. One of them has got like some weird funky angles. So, and this branch is also rubbing against the other branch. So we can remove this branch completely, allowing this branch to have a little bit more room. This branch here is kind of tipping up into the next one. That can come off. So here's an example of branches that are crossing each other. This is a very tiny example because these branches are tiny. But anyway, so you can imagine if the wind comes through and this branch is rubbing on the other one, it can create little open sores on it for bugs and fungus to have their way. So anyway, so what I like to do is take the most mature branch, or the branch I want to save, and if it's crossing something, I'll cut the more insignificant one out. So now it has nothing to rub up against. Another really important reason why we're pruning is to add more air circulation into the center of the tree. The air circulation is going to help prevent fungal issues like powdery mildew, black spot, leaf curl, those kind of things. So the more air circulation through the center of the tree, the better off it's going to be. Also, air circulation or pruning the interior parts of the tree out puts the fruit onto the outside of the tree, makes it easier to pick, so forth. So another important reason is aesthetics. If you have, I'm looking at an apple tree over here, it's off camera, but anyway, the top is kind of weighted down last year with apples. It's kind of getting all wonky, so you might want to cut that off just for aesthetics. Some of your cuts this year are not going to produce fruit this year, but down the road they will. It's just going to set your tree up for being more productive in the future. So a lot of these small cuts, you know, you're not thinking about producing fruit this year because this isn't going to produce fruit, but this branch will. So a lot of the times you have to think ahead, you know, 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road, and the things that you're doing now are just going to make that process easier. So also the height of the tree, using some of those concepts with heading cuts, you can bring the fruit lower so you're not up on a ladder picking your peaches. You can kind of bring that tree down over the several years. So anyway, hope that's really helpful. This tree is far from finished, but we have some more work to do on it still. But anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.